Welcome back. Well, we're turning our attention now to the forthcoming APC convention. Well, as you may have seen in the papers, New Telegraph says Oshiomhole is APC chair. So what else do we know about this forthcoming convention? Ajuri.
Thank you, Chamberlain. There's so much to get into this morning concerning this convention, and I have with me two gentlemen who will certainly have more insight into the events that will take place tomorrow in Abuja. Standing by with me are two gentlemen, Dr. Mike Enwelagi, a former state chairman of the former Congress for Progressive Change, CPC, in River State, who is vying for the seat of Deputy National Secretary at tomorrow's convention, and Mr. Ismail Ahmed, who is a member of the Board of Trustees of the All Progressives Congress and also a member of the Convention Planning Committee. You're very welcome to the program this morning, gentlemen.
It's a pleasure.
So let me start with you, Dr. Enwelagi. When you look ahead to tomorrow, how do you see preparations unfolding?
Thank you very much. Preparations are in very top gear. And I think the Convention Planning Committee is putting finishing touches to virtually everything. For instance, yesterday, the chairman of the Convention Planning Committee, and indeed the committee, entire committee, met with us, the aspirants, issuing us our clearance certificates and mapping out modalities on the conduct of the election proper on Saturday. So it was it's good. We were happy, and everybody left happier than they came into the place.
Mr. Ahmed, as a member of the planning committee, we've heard so much about this notion of building consensus around the various slots that are open for election. What has been has there been enough progress on that front, given that there were so many slots and so many interests from so many sides?
Well, absolutely. Consensus building is part of convention. The whole idea of a political party that calls itself a family is the ability of the leadership of the party and the followership of the party to come together and agree on certain things. What we would not have accepted in any case is to deny anybody his fundamental right to contest. But consensus building was encouraged. We got into a serious engagement with different stakeholders and people who are contesting position to make sure that the convention is as rancor-free as possible, and there has been significant progress beginning from last week up until last night, and I'm sure there will be continued engagement till tonight before tomorrow morning.
There have obviously, I'm sure you've been seeing in the media, there's been tremendous kind of questioning around this issue of the delegates that will ultimately attend tomorrow's convention from some states where you had cases of litigation. Imo comes to my mind, River State comes to my mind. What have you heard? What is the latest on that? Are there, we saw a headline on one of the newspapers yesterday that already the APC Convention Planning Committee has barred delegates from those states, for example, from attending the convention. Is that true?
Once there is a court injunction stopping us from recognizing certain delegates from any particular state, then we have no objection. We are not going to go against any court injunction because we're a law-abiding political party. But if there's any clearance, if there is no court injunction, there's nothing stopping us. But if there is a court injunction stopping us from recognizing delegates, then we have no choice.
The reason why I ask you is because in previous weeks we had seen where there were court injunctions that were in place, but the National Working Committee of your party still went ahead to swear in some of those state excos that were barred by those court injunctions. In view of that, do you still feel confident about what you just said?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because swearing in is one thing, but attending the delegation, because there are certain court injunctions that are specifically targeted at attending the convention. If there is a court injunction, it's verified, we have no choice.
Okay, okay. Dr. Enwelagi, you are, of course, vying for the seat of Deputy National Secretary. We know that there's quite a lot of interest in that seat from the South-South geopolitical zone. Why is it that, given kind of a bit of turmoil we've seen within the South-South caucus of the APC as of recent, how do you see that race playing out?
Well, when you say turmoil in South-South, I can't really understand.
I can be more precise if you'd like.
Yes.
Well, of course, we'd heard that, you know, of course, the Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, had been backing forces that were behind the emergence of Mr. Clement Ebri, potentially, to run for national chairman. We now know that he has stepped down in favor of Comrade Adams Oshomole. What are your thoughts on, you know, kind of the way that things are playing out between some of these forces?
You know, generally speaking, politics is a game of intrigues. People will jostle for positions and who to back up. But strictly speaking, as a zone, 24th April this year, the leadership of the zone met and unanimously adopted Comrade Oshomole to be the chairmanship candidate of our party. And to that extent, the entire South-South are backing him.
No, but Dr. Nwilagi, in fairness to the reality of what happened that day, there was a massive walkout, and it happened to be those forces that are loyal to the Minister of Transportation. They clearly disagreed that Comrade Oshomole should be the consensus opinion for a national chairman from that zone on the basis of their allegiance to the Minister of Transport, not so?
Yes, yeah, it happened. The papers reported them. But what I'm saying is that, you see, certain persons could be misguided. You know, in every discussion, you don't expect everybody to toe your own line. Majority will have their way, minority will have their say. So on that 24th, majority had their way, whereas minority merely had their say. Those people who walked out had their say. It's a free word. But I must tell you that the general consensus was that Oshomole should be our candidate. So those loose cannons, those persons that came left, right, and center, were strange to us as a zone. We stuck on him, and we'll be backing him, and we'll continue to support him so that he emerges tomorrow as the chairman of the party.
Mr. Ahmed, we've seen a consensus develop over the last few days for, of course, the emergence of Comrade Adams Oshomole as the national chairman of your party. Can you give us a bit of insight at all into what that process that led to Professor Osunbor and Mr. Ebri stepping down for him?
I'm a member. I'm not only a member of the the convention planning committee. I'm also a member of the election subcommittee. So I think it wouldn't be right for me to say certain things about certain candidates who are running for office. But I do know generally that consensus is highly encouraged. I'm not really happy with the way the former chairman is saying that there are loose cannons in the party. We don't think there are any loose cannons in the party. Like he said earlier, people have the right, minority have the right to say their say. If you disagree, you have the right to say that you disagree. The whole idea of a political party is that we don't have to all agree, but we just have to agree on how to disagree. And we have to disagree well, and then we hope that this consensus will be reached. And there has been significant progress. We want as much rancor-free convention as possible, and the comrade has had good endorsements for a lot of people, which is fantastic. But as long as there's somebody, one person out there who says, "No, I want to contest. I want to exercise my fundamental right to contest for this position," we'll have to give him a go. There's no doubt about that.
Well, I want to just kind of look at some of the zones. When we look at the southeast zone at the moment, there's a lot of contention around the position of National Organizing Secretary, who's going to emerge. We've seen a kind of a line drawn between the governor of Imo State and the chairman of the Screening Appeal Committee, Rochas Okorocha, and forces loyal to the deputy governor in his state, Madumere. Can you give us a sense of whether or not you've seen a level of consensus building around a particular candidate within that zone that all will be happy with?
I haven't seen that. But it's a continued engagement that's going to continue till tonight and probably tomorrow morning, even onto the convention floor, because this never finishes up until the last minute where there has to be election. First of all, you have to understand that as a political party, we have to encourage contest. You know, that was why the president insisted that there must be congresses. That there wasn't going to be tenure elongation. Let's go for congresses. Let's make sure that we move the party. We haven't had conventions since 2014 when we elected these officials. Then let's go back. You know, the Constitution said 4 years. So there has to be movement. There has to be serious engagement that has to go on. We hope at the end of the day it's going to be round coffee. Even if there's going to be a contest, it's not going to be volatile. It's not going to be. It's going to be round coffee. That is our hope at the end of the day. And hopefully, you know, consensus would do that. And I hope that the leaders of the Southeast would come to some sort of an arrangement to have a contest, you know, around the Kurumi, even if we don't have a consensus. I hope we'll have a consensus, but if that doesn't happen, we'll go for election. It's going to be round coffee.
We've talked about the national chairmanship slot, the NOS slot. The other position of really keen interest, I believe, to the presidency was the slot of national secretary. We've heard a lot about the Northeast, you know, who they're going to field. The Borno state governor being behind Alhaji Bulama, and of course the Yobe state governor heavily pushing the incumbent Mai Malabuni. Can you give us a sense of whether or not there's going to be an unopposed candidate in that slot, given the high-level intrigues around it at the moment?
Well, first of all, I don't know what you mean by saying that the presidency has specific interest in the national secretary.
No, in the top three, it's been pretty much well publicized at this point that there are 3 positions that the presidency and the governors were very keenly interested in. That's what I'm referring to.
Oh, well, I think those are some of the positions that are keenly contested anyway. So we want to make sure that we have, but I think the presidency is interested in all positions, okay. Not necessarily to pinpoint or to pick particular candidates, but these are all very important positions, especially if it's an NWC membership. The intrigues that's going on, I think, like I said, once we don't have a consensus, we'll have to go for elections.